Joe Paley. How are you, man? You good? Nice to see you. Guy, bulging disc. Got operated on 10 days.
Oh, I didn't know.
And but yeah, good for her. Yeah. So how's the rest of the family? Good? Good. Okay? My grandchildren. Although we did, you guys like skiing, you know, we're having they like to ski at Deer Valley because no snowboarding. And so we planned, Elizabeth rented a giant house, have them ski in, ski out, you know, and I look forward to these for months. And the little girl, the 13-year-old said, "Yeah, Papa, I can't wait until you come out here because I'm now faster than you and I'm going to beat you down." The 8-year-old says, "Well, I'm not fast enough. We'll play foul leader." The 8-year-old's a gymnast. Thing. And she could go under a tree and she can put her helmet on her skis. So she's basically this tall and can go under limbs. Hey, drive by to your papa. She goes under these trees. So they want, she wants to follow later. The 6-year-old says, "I'll ski with you, Papa, but I sometimes want to stop for trees." That's high elevation. Any place, any little shed, anything that sells anything, you got to stop it. So we get out there and do that, and not only does my right hip disappear, and I get pain in my right leg starts to become weak, but they close it out. 3 weeks ago. We were there last week. Ion gave a good plan. Well. Oh yeah, we just got an invitation. The girls were on video on FaceTime. We're moving to Spain. Oh, geez. Moving to Spain? 3 months. We're going to take sabbatical from work in January, February, March. The whole process. We're going to go to Spain, just up in the Mediterranean, east of Gibraltar. And we'll go to school there, travel around the island. We'll stay for like 88 days because get 90 days and then we're out. So next spring we already. So I just said, great, we'll be there.
Welcome to this sacred place where we honor the life of Dr. William Blank. I invite you to rise with me. Welcome to this holy ground, a place set apart by God, where we honor the life of Dr. William Blank.
We gather in grief and gratitude to give thanks for his life, a life lived in service to his family, his neighbors, and his community.
For everything, there is a season, and today we come into God's presence with song and gratitude for Bill's life. I invite you to sing with me, Love Divine, All Loves Excelling. You may be seated.
Our first lesson this morning is a reading from the second letter that the Apostle Paul wrote to Timothy. As for you, be sober in everything, endure suffering, do the work of a bearer of good news, carry out your ministry fully. As for me, I am already being poured out as a libation, and the time of my departure has come. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. From now on, there is reserved for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will give me on that day, and not only to me, but also to all who have longed for his appearing.
For the second reading, please join me in reading responsibly. Please read the bold portion. For everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven.
A time to be born and a time to die.
A time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted. A time to break down and a time to build up.
A time to weep and a time to laugh.
A time to mourn and a time to dance.
A time to throw away stones and a time to gather stones together.
A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing.
A time to seek and a time to lose.
A time to keep and a time to throw away.
A time to tear and a time to sow.
A time to keep silent and a time to speak.
A time to love and a time to fear.
A time for war and a time for peace.
You have heard read a curious book. It's a slightly unorthodox book in our sacred scriptures, the book of Ecclesiastes. This book is not tidy. It does not offer easy answers to life's questions. Instead, it gives us a rhythm, a holy cadence to life, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to keep and a time to let go. And today, we remember Dr. William Blank, and we feel how true those words are. Because Bill lived his life not outside those seasons, but inside them, moving through them with curiosity, steadiness, and a kind of quiet wisdom that did not need to announce itself. It was the kind of wisdom that his sons only realized at times later in life, looking back. For him, there was a time to be born. Bill's life began in Belleville, Illinois, a modest place called the stove capital of the world. Born on a Sunday in December of 1942, that manufacturing town was whirring in a world already trembling with war, and he was born to Helen and Alden, a family rooted in that same town for generations, and their bodies lie there even today. He was a boy riding his bike through the park, cooling off at the pool in the summer, growing up without pretense, but already with a mind that wondered, that noticed and asked, how does this work? Why does that happen? For there is a time to be born, and sometimes the beginnings are quiet, but the curiosity was already there. There was a time for him next to build. Bill built his life the way he did most things, carefully, thoughtfully, and with a kind of determination that didn't need to show off. He led his school class in grades, and he earned scholarships. A young man from Belleville heading to Westminster College, a place where Churchill and Harry Truman once spoke, where history brushed up against the present. He worked there as a dorm counselor, and he somehow survived student pranks as well, including one where a bucket of water was rigged above a door, and by sheer luck, it landed on the dean of students instead. A narrow escape and perhaps a quiet lesson that sometimes wisdom is knowing when to stand slightly to the side. He studied hard and applied himself until he found himself having dinner with President Harry Truman, chosen for the honor because of his academic achievements. For one does not just sit any college student next to the President of the United States. And then he went on to medical school, a full scholarship to Case Western. Because when Bill set his mind to something, he didn't just dabble in it. One of his sons said he mastered it. For there is a time to build. And Bill built a life of intellect, discipline, and curiosity. And then there was a time to love. In 1965, he met a girl. It was a birthday party for a classmate, Loma Brown. A snowy day, I'm told. Bill and Judy hit it off immediately. And next, there was a dinner and a movie. And of course, the date included a visit to a submarine, because even romance for Bill could not escape curiosity. For he loved airplanes, boats, submarines, and he loved Judy. And Bill always knew that he married up. They were married at St. Peter's Congregational Church and began the faithful, steady work of building life together. For there is a time to love, and for Bill, that love began early, and it lasted until death. And then it was a time to build a family. Next, there was an internship in Minneapolis, a residency in Philadelphia, and then Ted was born. Born in the middle of Philly. They moved to La Crosse, a place that would become home in every sense of the word. They packed up the U-Haul and headed to a house in Wedgwood Valley, where memories layered themselves into the walls, the driveway, and the ordinary days. And then Jeff was born. Days were spent at the Y with trampolines and laughter. And then Greg came along, a house full of movement, noise, growth, baseball games, piano lessons, hockey practices, and the steady presence of a father who always showed up. Always. There is a time to build, and Bill built a family, not with extravagant gestures, but with presence. At the same time, another season was unfolding, and some of you here know that season, for you worked with him, the creation of the eye clinic of La Crosse. Dr. William Blank built, with a colleague, Dr. Gill, a local institution undertaking cutting-edge surgeries and care, built alongside employees and colleagues who became friends, and a workplace that felt, in many ways, like family. He didn't just treat patients, he built relationships with an annual gathering of employees to build stronger friendships. And Bill didn't just go to work. He carried his family there, not physically, but in stories. He told his coworkers of the scouting adventures, the music lessons, the hockey games, so much so that years later, Ted remarked that he realized at 30, his dad's employees and colleagues knew all about his life, his cello, his piano, his sports, his life, because Bill talked about it all the time at work, because his boys were there with him and he loved his sons. That's what mattered to him. He carried his family with him wherever he went. For there is a season to work, and Bill worked with care that extended beyond the walls of the clinic. And then there was a time to explore, a time for flight, because curiosity, once lit, doesn't stay still. What began as simple flying lessons, while in Minneapolis, became mastery. He loved the physics of flight, the way the air moves over the wing, the reason lift happens. And someone said to him, if you really want to understand flying, you should try aerobatics. So he did. Loops, rolls, spins, not for the adrenaline, but for the mastery of the physics. If you were going to fly, you were going to master the art of why flight occurs. So he bought a plane, one that could loop, roll, and spin thanks to an inverted oil system. When Winona asked him to offer an air show, his curiosity got the better of him, and he figured out how to obtain the FAA license and waiver before an examiner. And he was off again, a season of offering those loops, rolls, and spins to modest towns around the state who otherwise wouldn't be able to afford such a gift. As the years passed, his waiver let him fly lower and lower until he was flying as low as he wished, close to the ground. Now, there were air shows in La Crosse and Riverfest, Wausau, Waukesha, flying low, flying high, eventually flying alongside the Blue Angels, teaching others, as he did in members of this congregation, how to fly, earning honors, entering the Wisconsin Aviation Hall of Fame, receiving the Federal Aviation Wright Brothers Award for Lifetime Achievement. In Bill's life, there was always a time to explore. And Bill explored the world, whether it was flying or French, sometimes both. So much so that Judy is not sure whom to give the books in French to that are in the basement on flying in French. If you know, come speak with her. For Bill, it was always a season to explore. Throughout Bill's life, it was often a season to give. He gave in ways that were visible and quiet, teaching scouts, not just earning merit badges, but making sure every child could participate. When the merit badge was aviation, he came with hairdryer and airfoil in hand to teach the physics of flight. And then he took up every scout in a plane, because not every child had that chance, for he didn't as a boy. It was always a season of giving for Bill, sometimes slipping a childhood friend $200 when he needed it, speaking up so other kids could have access to sports, helping our community of La Crosse turn hockey into a school sport and not just a club sport, endowing a scholarship at Westminster College so another kid from a modest town could study medicine like he did. There is a time to give, and Bill gave without needing recognition. For Bill, there was always a time to be present. Driving the boys everywhere, school in the morning for Lincoln Middle was near his work, games in the evening with Jeff and Greg, concerts of the La Crosse Youth Symphony for Ted, hockey rinks, cold, loud, long, baseball fields, trip to the airport like other families go to the store. Teaching his boys to drive, a little early, a little unofficial, near the hangar of La Crosse Airport, where mistakes are few because the pavement is wide. He even showed up, God bless him, when Jeff crashed a plane. When he arrived, there was no frustration because he knew the ego was already bruised. Instead, he said, "How are you?" He was always there. He learned golf, not because he loved it, but because Greg loved it. He listened to music, not always because it was his passion, but because he loved Ted and Ted played. When Greg was little, the older boys would be off at practice, and Bill would take little Greg to Perkins because he always showed up. He did that for his grandkids too, playing with them, showing up again and again and again. There is a time to be present, and Bill knew how to do that. As the boys grew, college, careers, and they had their own lives, Bill knew something not everyone knows. something the poet of Ecclesiastes knew. He knew when to speak and when to be silent. He knew how to let his sons become themselves. He had opinions, of course he did, but he didn't always share them. He gave space his sons recount and offered a wisdom when needed. He became not just a father, but a thoughtful presence and friend in their adult lives. After his boys became men, he flew to see Greg in San Francisco, Jeff in Portland, Greg again in Connecticut. He flew from the Atlantic to the Pacific to spend time with his boys. And even at 83, he was still flying. He was building a relationship with others and his sons, for there is a time to speak and a time to be silent. And Bill knew the difference. In Bill's life, there were also many times to laugh. There were family trips, I'm told, to Glacier, Yellowstone, Oshkosh every summer in the family camper. Europe with small boys, to France, the Caribbean. Even in recent years, the times for laughter and presence continued with the grandkids. Cape Cod with his granddaughters, Elizabeth, Catherine, and Charlotte. Laughter that carried across the generations so that Charlotte, at 5 years old, said, "Oh, Grandpa was so funny and nice." There was always a time to laugh with family, and Bill never outgrew that season. And through it all, through every season, there was something constant. Not simply flying, not medicine or achievement, but love. A steady, faithful love. A love for Judy, his partner in every season. A love for his boys, whom he talked about, showed up for, and learned alongside. And love for his grandkids, with whom he laughed and played. Love for his neighbors, his community, for all of you who sit in this room, people whom he quietly touched their lives and mentored. The writer of Ecclesiastes tells us, for everything there is a season, and Bill lived them all. A time to be born, a time to build, a time to explore, a time to give, and a time to let go. And a time to die. And in this time of death, a time when we learn to carry Bill in our hearts and no longer with us, beside us, we remember there was always a time to be curious, to be present with those you love, but most of all, there is always a time to love. Amen.
Thank you all for joining us today, and for being here for my father, and for me being here for our family. It truly means the world to all of us. For those who don't know me, I'm Greg. I'm the youngest of my dad's 3 sons, or as he called me and told every nurse at the hospital, and probably every one of you at one point, I'm the baby. I'm joined here by my wife Leslie and our 3 daughters, Elizabeth, Catherine, Charlotte. We live in Connecticut, just outside New York City. It feels especially fitting to be in this church today. This is the church where I was baptized probably 45 years ago. This is the church where I did my confirmation. And it's really good to see so many familiar faces. The number of people that I hadn't seen in 25 years who came today, just a huge thank you. We've known many of you since we were very young, and it means the world to us that you're all here today. So we're here to honor my dad, Dr. Blank, though most of you knew him as Bill. He was a devoted father, a proud grandfather, an eye doctor who genuinely loved his work, and a man who loved to fly, both right side up and upside down, more than probably just about anything. My dad lived a life that balanced steadiness and joy. By profession, he was an ophthalmologist. He helped people see better every day, and he took that responsibility seriously. I remember asking him as a child why he liked being a doctor, and his answer was always the same. He liked helping people, and he got to do that every day. His patients trusted him not just because he was skilled, but because he was calm, kind, and reassuring. He had a way of making people feel always taken care of. That same sense of care carried through in every part of his life. At home, my dad wasn't someone who gave long lectures. He was often a man of few words, and he taught us by example. He worked hard, did what he said he would do, and treated people well. He was always there for his 3 sons, me and my 2 older brothers, cheering from the sidelines of every game and quietly keeping track of our lives from a distance. After he passed away, one of my oldest friends, who's actually here today with us, sent me a note reminding me that my dad probably attended every single sporting event in our lives, from middle school, elementary school, through high school, including, I think, flying to a hockey game outside Superior and a baseball game near Omaha, just to make sure he was there. He was always there, quietly watching from the sidelines. I travel a lot for work. He always called or texted me to check in to see how I was doing, not because he was worried, just because he cared. He wanted to know where I was, what I was doing, what airplane I flew on that day. He wanted to stay connected. That was just his way. Becoming grandpa to 5 granddaughters was one of his greatest joys in life. He absolutely adored them. He loved their laughter, their endless questions, and simply being with them in those small, ordinary moments that meant everything to them. When I was 16, my dad taught me to fly. While he taught me the skills and the rules, what he really gave me was confidence. The confidence to climb and to trust myself, to look ahead, be calm in the presence of sometimes chaos. And every time I visited in Wisconsin, he always asked the same question: do you want to go flying? And we always did. Those flights were really ours. Quiet, exhilarating, full of easy conversation, just the 2 of us up in the air, sometimes right side up, sometimes upside down. They're memories that I'll carry with me forever. It was our happy place. And flying wasn't just something my dad did, it was part of who he was. As many of you know, he performed air shows, flying over the Mississippi River quite low at Riverfest or at the La Crosse Airport. And in watching him fly was watching someone completely alive, focused, confident, happy. The planes he flew fit him perfectly, precise, graceful, just a little daring. That mix of steadiness and adventure is what so many of us loved about him. My dad healed lives, he loved his family fiercely, and he found joy both on the ground and in the air. He taught us how to be careful and how to be brave, how to take responsibility, and how to enjoy life along the way. Even though he's no longer with us, his lessons remain, his laughter remains, and for me, the image of him flying upside down and the memory of our shared flights will always remain. Dad, we miss you so much. You gave us stories. You lifted us all up. We'll miss you more than words can say. Thank you.
A little shorter than Greg here. So my name is Jeff. I'm the middle son. I'm here with my wife, Donette, and our 2 daughters. You can't cry. Our 2 daughters, Anaya and Ren. So our stories, I think, are going to be somewhat similar, right? We had all very similar lives. As I reflected on what I was going to say, I started with that notion of we don't get to pick our parents. It comes with the job. And we were so fortunate, the 3 of us, to have mom and dad as our parents. I'm going to shear out a little bit of time for my daughter to talk about Grandpa, so I'll be a little shorter than Greg was. But the first story that I got to was a story of airplanes, of course. It existed in our lives before we were born. It is one of the first things we remember. My story was more, I learned to fly, Greg learned to fly. Today I'm more of a passenger than I am a pilot anymore. But we used to, whether we traveled somewhere, we were just sort of exploring expanded southwest Wisconsin. If there was an airport nearby, we absolutely made a detour and stopped at the airport. Now, we wouldn't go to like the terminal side. We'd go to the back and we'd find like a fence that had a crack in it, and we'd look through the crack to try to find that one, unique airplane that inevitably was rarely there. But that was something that we did as a family over and over and over again. And the truth of the matter is it kind of stuck for the boys, and maybe even for Grandma a little bit. Today, the flying part of it, as much as, again, for Ted and I, we're purely passengers. Greg still flies occasionally. But for us, it's very much a part of who we are. When we're on flights, when we're at airports, we're just kind of nerdy when it comes to that. And I think we're something that we're all very proud of. The second one for me ties to the sports, as Greg alluded to. Dad never missed any of them. I think too, playing in Viroqua when I was 7 years old and it was outside and minus 15 degrees, or you did Omaha, we did Cleveland, going everywhere. And I think for me, what I reflect on is, I don't know if he knew he was teaching his son a lesson that I would apply as a dad later in life of I gotta stop looking over there. But a lesson later in life of being there for my kids. And I do that because I want to be with them. We do have a fleeting time with our children in a lot of respects. There are a lot of people here that have been in my dad's life longer than I was as it relates to being physically together. I had my 18 years and went to college and kind of moved on and spread our own wings. And, having a 17-year-old and a crying 14-year-old very much is something that it really matters to me. And so to what Greg said, we're going to miss you very much, Dad, and excited everybody is here. And I'm going to introduce our daughter, Anaya, to share a few words about Grandpa.
How do I bend this down? Okay. Hi, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Anaya, my grandpa's oldest grandchild. It's hard to imagine that we don't have all the time in the world, but making that time count is something my grandpa taught us to do every day, whether it be going for a walk, going to get food, hanging out in the living room while we watched something. It all counted. It all meant something. I still remember every day when he and my grandma went out to lunch during school days. Me and my sister always wanted to go, and we would always try to convince our parents to let us skip school. It didn't work most times, but when it did, I had a blast, riding in the back seat on the way to McDonald's or Dairy Queen, knowing I was going to get 2 cheeseburgers and ice cream. Or whenever I wanted mac and cheese, he would always call me and my sister Big Mac and Little Mac. Memories like those will always and forever be a part of my life. And even if our time was cut too short, I'm always going to cherish the memories and experiences I got to have alongside you, Grandpa. I'm so incredibly proud to be your granddaughter, to get to spend all those moments together. Rest easy. I love you forever.
I am Ted Blank. I am Bill and Judy's oldest son. Thank you all for being here today. It means a tremendous amount to our family to see so many of you and to feel the support that we've had over the past few weeks. The messages, the calls, simply stopping by and saying hi, all the many kindnesses. It's really been overwhelming for us, but in the best possible way. So thank you very much for that. One of the things that I have been reflecting on is something that Reverend Wright mentioned, took me a long time to realize. And it took me a long time to understand that my dad was really a remarkable man. And that's probably pretty common. When we grow up, our parents are just our parents. We don't step back and evaluate them. We just experience them. Whatever they do, it just feels normal. So my dad going to work, that was normal. My dad doing surgery, that was normal. My dad doing air shows over Riverside Park with the dulcet tones of George Boland narrating the activity with tens of thousands of people watching, that was just normal. My dad coming to almost every concert, game, school event, that was normal. as people mentioned, the way he showed up, the way he carried himself, that's just what I thought all dads did. And so over the past few weeks, hearing from so many of you, I've really come to appreciate more something else. And that is what a remarkable friend he was to many of you. His consistency, his loyalty, the way he showed up for people. You know, Dad was not a big, flashy personality, but he was steady, dependable, the kind of person you could count on. But of course, to us, he was just Dad. But somewhere along the way, and probably later than it should have been, I started to see him very differently. I really started to understand the level at which he operated. As a physician, the trust that people placed in him, the lives he changed, the team and the business and the friendships he built at the Eye Clinic of La Crosse. As a pilot, the discipline, the skill, the courage that it takes, not just to fly, not just to perform, but to teach others and to push himself to do things that when he was a young boy in Belleville, Illinois, I'm sure he never imagined he would be doing air shows with the Blue Angels. Dad was steady, he was present, he expected a lot, but he gave even more. He didn't make a big show out of things, he just lived in a way that set the standard. And there's one moment that really stands out for me. My dad had this way of always telling me how proud he was of me. And not just at obvious moments. Sometimes he would even tell me he was proud of me when perhaps there was some room for improvement on my part. But that didn't matter to him. He just wanted me to know that. In fact, that was the last thing he ever said to me. And I didn't say it back as much as I should have. But there was one time that I did. He was being honored by the Boy Scouts for his lifetime of service. And they had honored him by naming a graduating class of Eagle Scouts after him. And I remember being at Camp Decorah and turning to Dad and saying, you know, it's okay for sons to be proud of their fathers, too. And he was speechless. So I probably hadn't said that enough, but I meant it. Because that's when I really started to understand that, you know, my impression of just Dad wasn't really the full picture. He was someone who had impacted so many people, consistently and quietly over a lifetime. And I think that's what made him remarkable. And maybe that's why when I think about him now, I can't help but think about the sky. It was where he felt at home. It was where he found joy, where he experienced that sense of freedom and perspective that not very many of us get to know in that same way. And so going forward, when I look up to the sky, when I look up to the heavens, I'll think of him there. Now, many of you may know that Dad spoke French virtually fluently. What you may not know is that one of his lifelong friendships began during a summer he spent bicycling through the south of France, and a friendship that endured over generations. And in fact, our family remains friends with one of the families of the people he bicycled with. And so it feels kind of fitting for me to close with a passage from the French book, The Little Prince, by the fellow aviator Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. And so I will read it first in French, and then I'll read it in English. Quand tu regarderas le ciel, la nuit, puisque j'habiterai dans l'une d'elles, puisque je rirai dans l'une d'elles, alors ce sera pour toi comme si riaient toutes les étoiles. Now in English, when you look at the sky at night, since I will be living on one of those stars, since I will be laughing on one of them, then it will be as if all the stars are laughing for you. And that's how I will remember my dad. Thank you.
Oh, I have slipped the surly bonds of earth and danced the skies on laughter's silver wings. Sunward I've climbed and joined the tumbling mirth of sun-split clouds, and done 100 things you have not dreamed of. Wheeled and soared and swung, high in the sunlit silence. Hovering there, I've chased the shouting winds along, and flung my eager craft through the footless halls of air.
Up and up the long, delirious, burning blue. I've topped the wind-swept heights with easy grace, where never lark or ever eagle flew, and while with silent lifting mind I've trod the high, untrespassed sanctity of space, put out my hand and touched the face of God.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth. Hi, my name is Catherine. We miss our grandpa very much. We have lots of fun memories with him. He flew kites with us on Cape Cod in the summer.
He was very funny. He would walk us to school in the morning. There is a good quote about a pilot that we liked.
The engine is the heart of the airplane, but the pilot is the soul.
I invite you to now, in a moment of reflection, to stand up and sing with me the Day of Resurrection. You may be seated. I invite you into a moment of prayer, to settle into your pews and to close your eyes as we reflect on our gratefulness for the life of Dr. Bill Blank. Holy and gracious God, we give you thanks for the life of your child, William Blank, for the gift of his curiosity that took root in him early and never left him, for a mind that delighted in how things worked, from the delicate work of healing eyes to the invisible physics of flight. May we, like Bill, be curious about your world, We thank you, O God, for the years of learning, for the long days of study and care, and for the wisdom that grew quietly within him. May we let that same wisdom grow in us. We thank you, O God, for his love for Judy, for his sons, Ted, Jeff, and Greg, and for the countless car rides and moments at events, for a father who showed up again and again, steady, present, and faithful. May we always be present for those who love us as Bill was. We thank you for the skies he explored as he went upward, for the discipline that grounded him, for the care to learn, to master, to teach others, and to share those gifts with his neighbor. May we always share the gifts we've been given with others. And now, O God, as we stand in our own season of grief and gratitude, we ask that you would comfort us with the memory of his life, a life well lived. May your comfort surround Judy, his sons, his grandchildren, and his friends, friends that became family. And when our own seasons come to their end, may we, like Bill, be found to have lived fully, loved deeply, and may we trust ourselves into your care. And now we take this moment to pray that simple prayer that Jesus taught us to pray. Our, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. I invite you to all rise as we commend Bill back to our God. Into your hands, Holy One, we commend your servant, a husband, a father, a grandfather, a physician, a pilot, and a friend, Dr. William Blank. We do this in the sure and certain hope that he is present with you now. We thank you, God, that you have given us the gift of knowing him, his faithful love, his deep curiosity, and his quiet generosity. For in knowing him, we have known some of God's goodness. Merciful One, help us to comfort one another with the stories and memories of Bill's life, the ways he showed up, the ways he cared for his neighbor and his community, and the ways he loved. And we commend him to you until we meet again. Bill has rested from all his labor. Come and let us sing that final hymn, hymn 59, that one can sing when a life was well lived. Joyful, joyful, we adore thee. Following this, you are invited to the holy act of sharing a meal together. As you leave, you are invited to turn right, for in sharing a meal, we share the gratitude and gift of a life in story with one another. And now, a blessing, a benediction. Bill Blank has fought the good fight. Bill kept the faith in his community. His God awaits him and welcomes him to his sacred home. Their God will wipe away all our tears. For Bill's life was a gift to all, and it will continue to shine through all he loved.